Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I am excited for my conversation today with Cynthia Barnes. She is the founder and CEO of the National Association of Women Sales Professionals. She is a 2021 Salesforce influencer, 2020 LinkedIn top sales influencer, and highly sought after global speaker and pioneering champion for women in sales. Cynthia is the author of Reaching the Top 1%, a strategic game plan for warrior women in sales, and is known for motivating others to feel confident, empowered, and brave. Her insights and unique understanding of what it takes for women sales professionals to excel have made her a sought-after expert, having appeared over 250 major media market outlets and around the nation, including appearances in Forbes and the Wall Street Journal. Wow, I love it. Welcome to the show, Cynthia.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you today?
I am doing awesome. I'm excited to dive into your background. Tell the story behind the story, so to speak. So take us way back. Tell us where you're from. Talk about kind of those early education or career choices that you made. And we'll go along your career path, and then obviously we'll get to this amazing organization you built. But start at the beginning.
The very beginning. Okay. I was born on an Air Force base in Maine. And from there, as an Air Force brat, we traveled a lot. Grew up primarily in a little town called Greentown, Indiana, population 2,500. And its claim to fame was Greentown Glass, a factory that burned down. So there's not really much happening in Greentown, Indiana, still to this day. So when people say, hey, have you been back? I say, no reason. The family left, and so did I. Went to Purdue University from there, about 45 minutes away. And after I left Purdue, I started my career and landed in sales by accident, like most people do, even though there are only 40 schools around the country that hold sales programs, which would be a surprise to know that 50% of all college graduates go into sales. And I was one of those 50%. So my career was as an enrollment counselor for the University of Phoenix. And anytime you work at a for-profit institution, your numbers are going to be counted because they're all about profit. So I started at University of Phoenix, and I didn't really know what I was getting into, but I learned that I loved it. And what I loved was, first of all, at my 3-month review, they tripled my pay. And I said, why did you do that? Again, I'm new, I'm green, I don't know. And they said, well, the more students you enroll, the more money you make. And I thought, wait a minute, I love what I'm doing. I'm working hard and I'm getting rewarded financially. What's not to love about this? So I said, well, how can I get even better? And they said, well, you can teach yourself sales. With no bona fide sales program, I got all the books and I'm going to date myself here, all of the cassettes, and I learned how to sell. And what I found was that I was quite good.
So interesting. I love that. The cassettes. Yes. I'm also from that era as well. Once in a while I'll say, I listened to that book on tape, and I'm like, oh wait, no, sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So you were at University of Phoenix for a little while, 5-ish years. Is that right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. And you were in Detroit at the time?
I was in the Detroit area, correct.
Okay. Awesome. So you're doing this, you're enrolling students, you're loving it, you're teaching yourself sales. That is so interesting because your stat about 50 or so % of folks go into sales, but there's not very many programs around the topic of sales, and we'll get to this, especially as we talk about your organization. Sales, when you say the word sales, and specifically for women, but some men too, when I will do, just a fun informal survey of the room about, how people feel about sales, there is, crazy enough, a sort of a negative connotation for a lot of folks about having to sell for themselves.
Right.
And I know this is part of your mission and your mantra and things of that nature, but it's great to hear that just right out of school, very early on, sounds like you kind of fell in love with sales. Is that right?
Yes, yes. And if you think about it, the reason why women have such an aversion to sales is twofold. Number one, if you go back to the origin of sales or selling, it's the first occupation, if you will, was prostitution. And that is a form of selling a woman's body. So if you think about that connotation of a woman selling, it's not very positive. And the second one is modern day sales is normally that guy with the mustard stained tie trying to sell you a car, and he's really bad at it. So no wonder nobody wants to go into sales.
Yeah, but sales is everything. I mean, I like the kind of the mantra in startup world that sales solves all problems, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So where did you move on to next after University of Phoenix?
Well, at the time, I did not have a degree, but they hooked me into working for them because they said, we'll give you a free degree or pay for your education if you work for us. And I thought, well, that's a no-brainer. Okay. So once I graduated, my boss came to me one day and she said, Cynthia, you're kind of good at the sales thing. You can now get a real sales job. And I looked at her kind of cross-eyed and I said, well, what does that look like? And she said, well, try pharmaceuticals. So I went into pharmaceuticals. And it was a mind-blowing experience with the Amex card, the paid travel, the company car, wining and dining doctors. And I thought, this is the life. You get assistants to help you. And when you're really good at something in the corporate world, recruiters come after you. So from there, I was recruited, and because I was single with no kids, I said, well, where are we going next? I lived in 19 different cities throughout my sales career.
Wow. Oh my goodness. You were moving. Okay. So what was next?
From there, I went into recruiting. Then I went into high-end skincare. And then my last corporate job before I left corporate America in 2016 was in logistics.
Tell me more about that.
Wow. It was the best job I ever had, and also the one that almost killed me. And I say that with a straight face and as somber as I can, because in sales at that company, our company motto is you are on call 24/7, 365. It's on the wall of every single office across the country. You knew that you had to answer your phone when a customer called, or else the support team back at headquarters would escalate it and your boss would get the call. And if your boss got the call, his immediate response is, well, this is your book of business. Why am I handling your calls? So with that constant on-call status, there's a level of anxiety that comes from that. I don't sleep because I'm getting calls at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning to locate trucks and check on drivers. And I went to my doctor one day after I was sitting down at my desk, and my assistant, Emma, said to me, Cynthia, you're bleeding. And so I put my hand up to my nose because I thought I had a nosebleed. And she said, no, your hand. And I looked down at my left hand, and I had been scratching, unbeknownst to me, I was scratching so hard that I had drawn blood.
Oh my God.
Yes. So I went to my doctor and I said, I've got a skin condition. I need some kind of ointment or pill or whatever, but I got to get back to work. So I'm taking these phone calls because we are always on the phone. And she says, you don't have a skin condition, Cynthia. You are anxious. And I thought, there's nothing wrong with my head. And she said, yes, you are anxious. Just the amount of phone calls that you've taken during this doctor's appointment, I can tell you it's job related. So I went back, got a couple of appointments with a therapist. And I was still on call because remember, you can't turn off your phone. And she says to me, do you realize that if you do not stop, you are going to kill yourself for this job?
Wow.
It was, yes, it was. Yes, it was. But I didn't believe her because I was thriving. And in sales, there's that adrenaline rush of, oh, I just landed a good deal, on to the next one. And it's a series of adrenaline rush, adrenaline rush, adrenaline rush. And in between, you may sleep. But in sales, it's that pursuit of that adrenaline rush. But in 2016, I said, no more. I said, no more. I'm going to leave corporate America and do my own thing. And that's what I did.
Yay. You joined the Flight Club.
Yes, yes, yes. Best decision ever.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like it was an easy decision, would you say? Or did this, take, I mean, obviously you were fighting it, saying like, I got this. But once you decided to leave, was it just like, boom, I'm done, I'm out? Or was there a bit of back and forth?
I did vacillate a little because, you go from that security of a paycheck every 2 weeks, and I was making good money. But I also knew and had heard through the grapevine that when you start a business, there's only two functions within a company: someone to create it or make it, and someone to sell it. And I thought, I've got 15 years of sales experience. I've got this entrepreneurship thing down pat. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously sales is a big part of it, but yes, as the entrepreneur, you do have to wear all 17 hats, so to speak.
Yes.
So let's get into, so I know you launched a Sales Institute, which you still have. I know you've been podcasting as well, recently launched your podcast. Let's pause on the podcast, talk about, how you decided to launch a podcast and the topic, and then let's get into the association.
I launched the podcast because I thought, what's next? What's next for Cynthia Barnes? Yes, there's the association, there's the institute, there's the book, there's the influencer status. But someone once told me that the people who are most successful think about what they're about to do and how it's going to impact 7 generations down the road. And for most of us, we think, what is this going to impact 30, 60, 90 days from now? Mm-hmm. So I started thinking about 7 generations down the road. What do I want my legacy to be? And I started to reverse engineer that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes. So I thought about Oprah, who is one of my sheroes, if you will, heroes, sheroes. And I said, what if I had what it takes to be the Oprah of sales? What would that look like? And then I stopped and I said, why do I have to be the Oprah of sales? Why can't I be the Cynthia of sales? So that's how this podcast started, as a way to broaden my reach, to reach more women, to help more women, and to kind of destigmatize the thought that sales is bad. Sales is the best career ever. And on a really personal note, I wanted my 9-year-old niece to look at me and say, if Auntie Cynthia did it, I can too. So every project that I take is so that my niece will say, I can do anything and I am unstoppable because my auntie is.
I love that. I love it. Oh, well, wonderful. Well, I'm excited to listen to some of your episodes. I know you recently launched. Again, you're obviously an influencer in many ways, but you're also on the Forbes Business Development Council. So you're a busy lady. So let's talk about the association. So again, National Association of Women Sales Professionals. When you say the acronym, how do you say it? Or do you just say NAWSP? Or do you, like, NABO is,
right.
When we say NABO.
Exactly, yeah. We just say NAWSP.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I was like, I was trying to find a little, a catchy way to say it. Perfect. Okay. So you founded the association close to 5 years ago. Talk about some of the work you're doing. Talk about some of the cities you're working in. What is obviously events and all the things look different because of the last 16, 17 months. But talk about the organization.
I started NWSP because I had an idea. And growing up in sales the way I did, learning how to sell the way that I did, one thing became abundantly clear. Every book, conference, audio tape I listened to was written by a man or held by a man. And I said, okay. And before I start, I have to say this. There's absolutely nothing wrong with sales approaches created by men. After all, I and my colleagues got to the top 1% using them. They're very good. My hypothesis was, in a world where traditional sales approaches are created by men for men at a time when men made up the entire sales force, how much faster could women reach success and thrive in male-dominated industries if we had sales approaches that address the unique challenges we face while amplifying our innate strengths? So that's why I started NWSP. And to this day, we offer training, professional development, and coaching, mentorship created by women for women so that we can thrive in those male-dominated industries.
I love it. Yeah, it's funny, as you said that, I'm thinking, so I have a business, undergrad and grad degree, and you're right, is it like Les Brown, or who are like some of the, those like early adopter sort of sales gurus that are out there that we all read in college?
Yes, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar. There's just a plethora of them. And again, there's nothing wrong with those. This is an and economy, not an or economy. So what we can take is the knowledge, skills, and talents of one demographic, and we can say, that's great. I took what I wanted from that. And there's another approach that I may want to investigate and take what I love from that. So I don't want anyone to exclude either one. I want you to say, this is great. I'm going to love what I like, take what I like, and leave the rest from everything. And that's how you get what you need. It's that abundant mentality rather than a lack mentality.
Yeah, such a good point. So let's kind of hone in on this concept of women in sales in regards to what have your observations been over your career and perhaps part of what you teach around, do women sometimes take a different approach? And what I'm fishing for here, Cynthia, just to be direct, is, I feel like we're intuitive, right? We're relationship builders, just naturally, not that men aren't, but women, that's very inherent in us as well. So what kind of differences do you see in the approaches women and men take to sales?
First of all, we love building relationships. Women thrive on getting to know other people. They're motivators. They're just the ins and outs, like peeling back the layers of the onion. We're naturally curious. So we want to know, well, why did you do that? And how did that make you feel? And we get into the depths of a conversation. And that serves us very well in the selling process, because people really don't care how much you know, as they say, until they know how much you care. Women are highly empathetic, sometimes to a fault. Most of the time, it serves us well in the selling process, because we can say, you know what, Mr. Prospect, I can understand where you're coming from, and here's how I can show you that I know. So when people feel that you understand them and their needs, and that you want to partner with them to find a solution, they are more likely to engage with you in a sales conversation, because they say, you know what, she cares, she gets me, she's curious, and she's committed to helping me. Women are also excellent time managers. So if you have a woman who wears multiple hats at home, she is managing the heck out of her home schedule. Johnny's soccer practice, Susie's gymnastics, the husband's golf tournaments, all of those things. make her an ideal salesperson because she can now prioritize, because she doesn't manage her time, she manages her priorities. And there's a huge difference in that. And last but not least, one thing that really rubs me the wrong way is they say that women need more confidence in selling. The women that I engage with on a day-to-day basis are quite, and I don't know if I can say this on your podcast, but they are bad mamma jammas. And I won't say what I was originally going to. They are complete badasses. They are. Yes. They like my the San Diego chapter leader, Catherine, who loves you and your organization. She says that when she's ever contacted by her inner critic, she will say, "Let me take you by the hand, inner critic, and I will show you how it's done." That is the epitome of badass, because most of us will let that inner critic say, "You're too old, you're too young, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're not educated enough, you've got too much education." That inner critic will get us to believe that we are not capable of doing anything. And what Catherine said is beautiful. I'm just going to take the inner critic by the hand and say, "Honey, let me show you how it's done." So that whole confidence thing, or lack of confidence, I don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. And I love, Catherine Evans Nunez.
Yes.
We'll give her a shout out. She's the LinkedIn queen.
Yes.
Of
Yes.
social selling agency, which a lot of us are, always trying to master.
Yes.
You make such a good point with that, it is that just giving yourself an opportunity to talk to that inner critic in a different way, because we all have it. It all comes up. Men have it too.
Sure.
We're just better at ignoring it. Maybe, I don't know. But it's, I think for me at least, and not to get too crazy deep into this topic, but it's one I'm also very passionate about. A lot of it stems from childhood. I believe,
yes.
Personally, I've read a lot about this as well. This kind of, everybody's looking at us, especially as girls and women, right? It's this, and Instagram and all these platforms, TikTok, have amplified this, of the outward looking in.
Yes.
The locus of control being intrinsic versus extrinsic. And so for women, as we are girls, we grow up with this very look at me, outward looking in. And by and large, and this gross generalization, men tend to have a little bit more of an intrinsic locus of control. And so, getting rid of that, I mean, there's been books out that, I won't say the title of the book, but, the F word, don't care about what other people think. And I think there's some truth to that, and you don't have to be a jerk about it, of course. We aren't, but just for myself, just stepping back and saying, why am I worried about it? Why do I care about what this other person thinks of me? Just be yourself, do it, and keep moving, so to speak.
Sure.
So that outward looking in, trying to reverse that locus of control is something I'm very interested in as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and we could go on all day about that. But anyways, okay. So let's get to, I know you have a conference coming up. I know you're doing all kinds of amazing things. Give us some highlights of some of the things you have coming up for NWSP in the next 6 months or so.
We are laser focused on helping women in sales be the change they wish to see. There's a huge push lately over the last 18 months, and even longer than that in some circles, for work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And a lot of companies say they want to move the needle. They have programs to help move the needle, and still nothing's changed when it comes to equity and giving opportunities to historically excluded groups. So my theory is that women are change agents naturally. Women when we band together, we accomplish amazing things. And if anything is going to be changed in diversity, equity, and inclusion in corporate America, I believe that it is up to women to do it. And as women in sales, we are influencers anyway. So if given the right tools and empowered with the right verbiage, I think that we can move the needle and be the change that corporate America needs. So we're hosting workshops, webinars, retreats. That is our focus for the next 2 years. Be the change.
Oh, love it. I love it. So Cynthia, if folks want to learn about you and the association, what's the best place for them to go?
Please connect with me on LinkedIn. You will need my email address, which is hello@NWSP.org. And make sure you personalize the invite by letting me know that you heard me on Felina Hansen's Flight Club, please.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. All right, my dear, thank you so much for your time. I definitely loved learning more about you and your background.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. You are doing amazing things with Hera Hub. And when I'm out in the Southern California area, I will hit you up for a latte.
Awesome. I love it.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.